Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today is Friday the 27th of March 2020. It's about 7:45 in the morning, which means that by the time we get to 3:30 this afternoon, our school will have been closed, shut down for a week, with just our key workers, children in school and skeleton crews from Wednesday. So, strange times, isn't it? Strange times. Right, we're up to, I'm reading for you today, I'm reading for you chapter 10 today, which is quite a long chapter. I don't know if you've noticed, but in the back here, I've brought our little dragons from upstairs. This is our little jasmine dragon. It's probably can't see it, but it's puffing smoke out of its nostrils. There's a lovely jasmine flavour underneath there, jasmine and vanilla, I think it is. And then at the side, I have brought a slightly bigger but softer dragon to come and join us today. This dragon was given to my stepdaughter Abby when she played a little baby dragon for me on stage in a pantomime in about 2011 or something like that, 2010. The reason why I brought those down is because I am amazed, and I want to say a massive thank you to all of you guys from Kurt Sandal School and anybody from anywhere else who's watched these, because those first 6 videos that were published up by the end of yesterday, we've gone over 500 views. Over 500 views, and they're not all from me. I'm not that vain, but they're not all from me. So I'm absolutely amazed. I can't believe how many of you are watching these. I've had some lovely messages from some of the children in my class, from Fifi, from Holly, from Liam, from Ava, from various others, saying that they're really enjoying the videos. I've seen 1 or 2 of the children at school. I've seen Kendall and 1 or 2 others saying they'd seen me on YouTube, and they were yeah. So really good, really good. Well done, everybody. Keep it going, keep it going. Hopefully I'll get this rather long chapter done before it's time to go and do Joe Wicks's fitness, and if everything goes to plan on Monday, if I get all these uploaded on Monday at 3 o'clock, I will be reading live, which will be brilliant, okay? Right, shall we crack on, because I've talked for far too long, and it's a long chapter. So, chapter 10, Thor'sday, Thursday. The Thursday celebration were a truly spectacular occasion. The hairy hooligans, fierce rivals, the meatheads from the nearby Meathead Islands, sailed across the inner ocean to the Isle of Burke for this great gathering. The visitors set up camp in Black Heart Bay, which turned overnight from an empty desert of echoing seagulls into a bustling village of tents made out of sails which were too big and too patched up to be used at sea anymore. By the next morning, the long beach was packed with stalls and jugglers and fortune tellers. There was a happy confusion of Vikings spotting old friends and practising their swordplay on one another. And, of course, yelling at the children to stop hitting each other right now. The Thors, no, I really mean it this time, or else. Vast Viking men sat on uncomfortable rocks, guffawing loudly like gigantic sea lions in a holiday mood. Viking women that were impressively large huddled in groups, cackling like seagulls and downing whole mugs of tea in one swallow. Despite Old Wrinkly's gloomy forecast of terrible storms and typhoons, it was a gloriously hot June day, with not even a hint of a cloud in the offing. The young hero's final initiation test would not start until 2 p.m, so Hiccup spent the morning listening round-eyed to storytellers telling tall tales of dirty Danes and pirate princesses. And as we can see from there, that is the stuff that was happening on the Thursday celebration. So we had 9 o'clock, hammer throwing for the over 60s. At 10:30, it's how many ghouls eggs can you eat in 1 minute. 11:30 was the ugliest baby contest. 12:30 was the axe fighting demonstration, and then at 2 o'clock, the young hero's final initiation test, deadline day for the boys, and the grand raffle and final ceremony. So let's see what happened, shall we, during the day. Hiccup was sick with nerves, so he found it difficult to enjoy the occasion as much as he had done in previous years. Even Gobber, throwing up in the how many ghouls eggs can you eat in 1 minute competition, failed to raise more than a faint smile on Hiccup's pale, tense face. His family had a picnic lunch overlooking the axe fighting display. Hiccup could not eat a thing, and nor, unusually, could Toothless, who was in a difficult mood and turned his nose up at the tuna sandwich Valhallarama offered him. "It's good to keep your dragon's appetite sharp for the game," boomed Stoic the Vast, who was in excellent mood. He had won a bet on Goggletoad in the ugliest baby competition and was looking forward to seeing his son's brilliant display during the initiation test. As the day wore on, a hot, windy wind suddenly started blowing out of nowhere. It was still sweltering, but ominous grey clouds were gathering on the horizon ahead. There was an odd rumble of thunder in the air. Maybe old Wrinkly had been right after all, thought Hiccup, as he gazed upwards, and Thor was going to put in his appearance, his traditional appearance at the Thursday celebrations. Will all youths hoping to be initiated into the tribes this year please make their way to the ground at the left of the beach? Hiccup gulped, nudged Toothless, and stood up. This was it. Hiccup was one of the last to get to the ground, which was a large sea of wet sand just at the edge of the sea. The boys from his own tribe were already assembled, their dragons hovering a couple of feet above them. Everybody was chattering excitedly, and even Snotclout was looking nervous. The Meathead boys and their dragons seemed to be gigantic, rough-looking customers, far tougher than the hooligans. One, in particular, was a particularly great hulking brute of a boy who looked 15 at least. Hiccup presumed that this was Thuggery, Chief Mogadon of the Meathead's son, because a silver-grey monstrous nightmare about 3 feet tall was perched on one of his shoulders. It was looking at Fireworm like a Rottweiler thinking evil thoughts. Fireworm acted unconcerned. "An aristocrat never growls," purred Fireworm sweetly. "You must be one of those mongrel nightmares. We pure greenbloods, descended from the great Ripperclaw himself, would never dream of doing anything so common." The silver nightmare's growling increased in volume. The crowd was assembling at the touchline. Hiccup tried not to notice Stoic the Vast blasting his way to the front with great cries of "Out of my way! Out of my way! I'm a chief! 10 to 1, my son catches more fish than your son in this test," boomed Stoic, giving his old enemy and friend Mogadon the Meathead a good prod in the stomach. Mogadon the Meathead narrowed his eyes and wondered whether to hit him. Maybe after the test. "And which," asked Mogadon the Meathead, "is your son? Is he the tall one who looks like a pig with the skeleton tattoos and the red monstrous nightmare?" "Nope," said Stoic, happily. "That's my brother Baggybum's son. My son is that skinny one over there with the toothless daydream." Mogadon the Meathead broke into a big smile. He slapped Stoic on the back and yelled, "I'll take your bet and double it." "Done!" shouted Stoic, and the two great chieftains shook hands and bumped their bellies on the bet. Gobber the Belch was in charge of this final stage of the initiation test. He was still looking just a little bit green from his unpleasant experience in the "how many ghouls' eggs can you eat in 1 minute" competition. This had not improved his temper. "All right, you horrible lot!" yelled Gobber. "This is where we find out if you are the stuff that heroes are made of. You will either walk out of this arena full members of the noble tribes of the hairy hooligans and the merciless meatheads, or you will go into miserable exile forever from the inner isles. Let's see which it is going to be, shall we?" He grinned nastily at the 20 boys before him. "I shall begin by inspecting you and your animals as if you were warriors about to go into battle. I shall introduce you to the watching members of the tribes you hope to enter. Then the test shall begin. You will demonstrate how you have asserted your force over these wild creatures and tamed them by the sheer heroic personalities that you have. You will start by performing the basic commands of go, stay, and fetch. you will end by ordering your reptile to hunt fish for you, as your fathers have done before you. Hiccup swallowed nervously. The boy and the dragon who most impressed the judge, and that is me, said Gobber, baring his teeth grimly, will receive the extra glory of being called the hero of heroes, most promising dragon. The boys and dragons who fail the test will go into exile, say their farewells to their families forever, and leave the tribe. To move to where? We don't care. Poetry, muttered Fishlegs, just loud enough for Gobber here to hear. Gobber glared at him. Heroes or exiles, yelled Gobber the Belch. Heroes or exiles, yelled 18 boys fanatically at him. Heroes or exiles, yelled the watching hooligan and meathead tribes. Please let me a bit of a hero. Just this once, Hiccup and Fishlegs each thought to themselves. Nothing too spectacular, anything, just to get through this test. Stand to attention with your dragons on your arms, yelled Gobber the Belch. Gobber walked down the row of boys for the inspection. Beautiful turnout, Gobber congratulated Thuggery the meathead on his nightmare dragon killer, who spread out his shining wings to show off a wingspan of about 4 foot. Gobber stopped abruptly when he got to Hiccup. And what, in the name of Woden, is that? Said Gobber, blanching a little. It's a toothless daydream, sir, muttered Hiccup. Small but vicious, added Fishlegs helpfully. A toothless daydream, blustered Gobber. That's the smallest common or garden I have ever seen. What do you think I am, an idiot? No, sir, murmured Fishlegs reassuringly. You're just a little on the slow side. Gobber glowered dangerously. A toothless daydream, explained Hiccup, looks exactly like a common or garden, except for the characteristic wart on the end of its nose. Silence! Said Gobber in a very loud whisper, or I shall throw you all the way to the mainland. I hope, he continued, that this dragon hunts better than it looks. You and your fishy friend here are the worst 2 candidates I've ever seen for initiation. I've ever had the displeasure of teaching them. But you, Hiccup, are the future of this tribe. And if you shame us in front of the meatheads, I will personally never forgive you. Do you understand? Hiccup nodded. Each boy then stepped forward to bow and hold up his dragon for the spectators to applaud. There was a huge clapping for Snot-Faced Snotlout and his dragon, only rivalled by the mighty cheering for Thuggery the meathead and his dragon. I give you, last but not least, Gobber the Belch was trying to put a bit of enthusiasm into his yelling, the fearsome, the terrible, this only son of Stoic the vast, Hiccup the useful, and his dragon Toothful. Hiccup stepped forward and held up Toothless as high as he could to make him look a little bigger. There was a slightly appalled silence. People had seen dragons this small before, of course. Normally scampering about after field mice in the wild, but not as noble hunting dragons in the dragon initiation test. Size isn't everything, boomed Stoic, so loud that you could have heard him several beaches away, and he banged his great hands together to start the applause. Everyone was terrified of Stoic's famous temper, so they joined in with polite, wild cheering. Toothless was still in a mood, but he was delighted to be the centre of attention, and he puffed out his chest and bowed solemnly to the left and to the right. A few of the meatheads sniggered. Changed my mind, thought Hiccup. This is the worst moment of my life so far. Okay, Toothless, he whispered into the little dragon's ear. This is our big chance. Catch lots of fish here, and I will tell you more jokes than you've ever heard in your life, which will make that big red fireworm dragon really cross. Toothless took a sideways glance at Fireworm. She was sharpening her nails on Snotclout's helmet with the smug certainty of a dragon who knows she's going to win the prize for the most promising dragon. The test began. Toothless actually didn't do too badly in the early obedience exercises, though he clearly thought it was extremely dull. It was now raining quite hard, and Toothless hated the rain. He wanted to go home and relax in front of a nice warm fire. Fireworm and Killer were going and fetching as soon as Snotclout and Thuggery commanded, and they were diving and breathing out fire as they did so, just to show off. Fireworm did some fancy acrobatic somersaults that had the crowd screaming and stamping their feet. "Start your hunting!" yelled Gobber the Belch. Every dragon except Toothless flew out to sea. Toothless flapped back to Hiccup's shoulder. "Toothless got a tummy ache," he complained. Hiccup tried not to see his father looking surprised on the sidelines. He tried not to notice the crowd whispering to each other, "That stoic son over there." No, not the tall one with the skeleton tattoos who looks like a pig. The small skinny one who can't even control his minuscule dragon. "Don't forget, Toothless," said Hiccup through gritted teeth. "The fish! I am going to tell you all the jokes I've ever heard, remember." "Tell me now," said Toothless. Help came from an unexpected quarter. Snotclout broke off from yelling, "Kill, Fireworm, kill!" to lean over and sneer at Hiccup. "What are you doing, Hiccup? You're not talking to that newt with wings, are you? Talking to dragons is against the rules and forbidden by order of Stoic the Vast. Your soppy father." "A newt with wings?" repeated Toothless. "Newt with wings?" "You're not a newt with wings, are you, Toothless?" said Hiccup. "You're the best hunter in the world, aren't you?" "Too right I am," said Toothless grumpily. "You show that snot-faced Snotclout and his snobby dragon what a real hunting dragon can do," said Hiccup urgently. "Okay then," said Toothless. Hiccup heaved a huge sigh of relief as Toothless took off in shambolic fashion in the general direction of the sea. "This is too good to be true," Hiccup said to himself 10 minutes later, as Toothless returned from a second trip, clearly too bored for words but dropping a couple of herrings at Hiccup's feet. "In about half an hour, I, Hiccup, will become a fully paid-up member of the Hairy Hooligan Tribe." It was too good to be true. Fireworm was just flying back to Snotclout with her 20th fish, her green cat's eyes snapping with triumph, when Toothless called out, "Sloppy snob!" Fireworm stopped in mid-air, her head whipped round, her eyes narrowing. "What did you call me?" "Oh, no," said Hiccup. "No, Toothless, no, don't do it." "Sloppy snob!" jeered Toothless. "Is that the best you can do? It's pathetic, hopeless, useless. You nightmares think you're so cruel, but you're as sloppy as scallops." "You!" hissed Fireworm, her ears dangerously flipped back as she crept forward through the air like a leopard about to spring. You are a little liar. And you, said Toothless calmly, are a rabbit-hearted, seaweed-brained, winkle-picking snob. Fireworm went for him. Toothless streaked off as quick as lightning, and Fireworm's massive jaws snapped together with a sickening crunch on nothing but thin air. Chaos ensued. Fireworm completely lost control. She plunged wildly through the air, claws out, biting anything that moved, and letting out great bursts of flame. Unfortunately, in the process, she accidentally scratched Killer, a dragon with a very short temper. Killer then attacked any hooligan dragon within biting distance. Soon, the dragons were involved in a full-scale, rip-roaring dragon fight, with the boys running round shouting them to stop and trying to pull them apart without getting killed themselves. The dragons took absolutely no notice whatsoever, however hard the boys yelled, and Thuggery and Snotlout were very, 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 very red in the face after some pretty impressive yelling. Gobber, the Belch, went ballistic on the sidelines. Can somebody tell me what in Thor and Woden's name is happening? Toothless was in his element in this kind of chaos, dodging Fireworm's angry lunges with ease, nipping in with a lively bite at Alligator Tiger here, and a scratch at Bright Claw there, obviously enjoying the fight enormously. Even Horror Cow showed a great deal of spirit for a dragon who was supposedly vegetarian. She managed to give Fireworm a truly impressive bite on the bum, as Fireworm and Killer rolled through the air, biting chunks out of one another. Gobber the Belch entered the fray, grabbing hold of Fireworm's tail. Fireworm gave a howl of outrage, squirming round, and set Gobber's beard on fire. With one massive hand, Gobber swatted out the fire, and with the other, he clamped Fireworm's jaws together, so she could neither bite nor burn. He took the furiously enraged animal under one arm, still holding her mouth closed. Stop! Screamed Gobber the Belch, with a hair-raising, skin-crawling, fang-dropping yell that reverberated off the cliffs, bounced off the sea, and whose faint echoes could be heard on the mainland. The boys stopped their useless screaming. The dragon stopped in mid-air. There was an awful silence. Even the watching crowd went quiet. This had never happened before. All 20 boys had shown themselves to be completely out of control of their dragons during the final initiation test. Technically, this meant that all the 20 of them would be thrown out of their tribes and into exile, and exile in this horrid climate could mean death. Food was scarce, the sea was dangerous, and there were certain wild tribes on the Isles who were rumoured to be cannibals. Gobber the Belch stood lost for words, his beard still smoking. When he eventually spoke, his voice was deep with the horror of the situation. I will have to speak with the elders of the tribes, was all he said. He dropped Fireworm on the ground. She had come back to her senses now and slunk towards Snotlout, her tail between her legs. The elders of the tribes were Mogadon and Stoic, Gobber himself, and a few more of the more fearsome warriors, such as Terrible Toughnut, the Vicious Twins, and the hairy, scary librarian from the Meathead Public Library. The crowd and the boys stood absolutely still as the elders consulted in the traditional elder huddle, which looked a bit like a rugby scrum. Meanwhile, the storm was getting worse. Huge claps of thunder burst over their heads. The rain poured down, and they couldn't have been much wetter if they'd all jumped into the sea. The elders consulted for a long time. Mogadon got angry at one point and swung a fist at Toughnut. A twin held on to each of his arms until he calmed down again. Eventually, Stoic came out of the huddle and stood before the boys, who were hanging their heads in shame with their dragons at their feet. If Hiccup had been able to look at his father, he would have seen that Stoic was not his normal, merry, violent self. He looked very solemn indeed. Novices of the tribes, he bellowed grimly, this is a very bad day for all of you. You have failed the final test of the initiation program. By the fierce law of the Inner Isles, this means that you should be cast out of your tribes forever. I do not want to do this, not only because my own son is among you, but also because it will mean that a whole generation of warriors is lost to both tribes. But we cannot ignore our law. Only the strong can belong. In case the blood of the tribe should be weakened, only heroes can be meatheads and hooligans. Stoic jabbed a fat finger in the air. Furthermore, he carried on, the god Thor is really angry. This is not a moment to weaken our laws. Thor let out a great crash of thunder, as if to underline this point. Under normal circumstances, said Stoic, the ceremony of exile would start now, but going to sea in weather like this would mean certain death for all of you concerned. As an act of mercy, I will allow one more night of shelter under my roof, and first thing tomorrow morning you shall be set aside. From this moment forth, you are all banished, and may not talk to any other member of your tribe. The thunder crashed all around the boys as they stood heads bowed in the rain. Pity me, for this is the saddest thing I have ever had to do, said Stoic. To banish my own son. The crowd murmured sympathetically, applauding the nobility of their leader. A chief cannot live like other people, said Stoic, looking almost pleadingly at Hiccup. He has to decide what is good for the good of the tribe. Suddenly, Hiccup was very angry. Well, don't you expect me to pity you, said Hiccup. What kind of father thinks his stupid laws are more important than his own son? And what kind of stupid tribe is this anyway, that it can't just have ordinary people in it? Stoic stood, looking down at his son in surprise and shock for a moment. Then he turned round and trudged off. The tribes were already running off the beach and scrambling up the hillsides towards the shelter of the village, lightning coming down all around them. I am going to kill you, hissed Snotlout at Hiccup, Fireworm snarling menacingly from his shoulder. The first thing after we are banished, I am going to kill you. And he ran off after the others. I've lost my tooth, Toothless complained whinily. It came out when I bit that fireworm dragon. Hiccup took absolutely no notice. He looked up at the heavens, beside himself with fury, as the wind scooped up seawater in handfuls and flung it straight into his face. Just once! Just once, yelled Hiccup. Why couldn't you let me be a hero just once? I didn't want anything amazing. I just wanted to pass this stupid test, so that I could become a proper Viking like everybody else. Thor's thunder boomed and crackled above him blackly. Okay then! Okay! Screamed Hiccup. Hit me with your stupid lightning! Just do something to show that you're thinking about me at all! But there were to be no bolts of lightning for Hiccup. Thor clearly didn't think he was important enough for an answer. The storm moved on out to sea. And that is the end of that. Things not looking quite so good for Hiccup and the boys now. Banished, thundering, threatened. See what happens next. Catch you later for chapter 11.